Welcome to the Paketo Working Group meeting. I'm glad to see you all here. And I'm really sorry about any confusion that these lack reminders could cause. Seems like reminders don't have any way to handle time zone changes, so I will recreate them. And I will have to do the same on March or whenever we enter again on BST. Okay, well, let me share my screen real quick here. Cool. Yeah, feel free to add yourself to the attendance list, including your affiliation. It's totally optional, but will be awesome. Yeah. Okay, is there anyone who would like to take notes for this session? I'll do it, but I will be presenting for a good chunk of the meeting, so not sure if I will be able to do it.
I can take notes.
Thank you, Frankie. Cool. Yeah, new faces. Yeah, Philip, I'm glad to see you here. I think we've interacted in the past in a couple of places, but just wanted to ask you to briefly introduce yourself.
So yes, hi, thank you. I guess some of you I already met in PR reviews, but not in a meeting before. Yeah, so I'm working in the team of Jan von Löwenstein. I think he always joins in the meetings that are later, that later time slot. Right? So also working for SAP. Yeah, we know the interested in based in Germany.
Awesome.
Maybe that's interesting.
Yeah, thank you for joining, Philip. It's great to see you here.
Cool.
All right, who else? Seems like Forrest would like to introduce himself again, but if that's not the case, I will move you to the attendees list.
Yeah, I put myself in the wrong place, sorry.
No problem. Awesome. Okay, cool. Next up, I'm not sure if there is any RFC non-draft stay this week. Oh yeah, there are some of them. So let's discuss briefly each one of them. Kerberos Buildpack RFC. Would you mind to briefly introduce this proposal?
Yeah, the background here is mostly that Kerberos is a commonly used authentication protocol, mostly in the .NET space, although it is not uncommonly used in other places like in Java. We have Kerberos like package support in the full stack, but we don't have it in the base stack, even though .NET Core will run on top of base. So what this proposal outlines is the introduction of a build pack to add the libraries that are required in order to implement interaction, client-side interaction with the Kerberos protocol. Mostly it's installing the same set of libraries you would get if you did like apt-get KRB5 user. The advantages, I think, of us doing this in a build pack is we're not introducing more libraries that maybe aren't always used onto the base stack. And so they're, targeted for only those applications that really do need Kerberos. The downside is, yet another build pack bloating the builders and so on and so forth. There's also some discussion in the thread about whether or not we would use extensions for this. I think the biggest issue there is like platform availability. So like pretty much none of the platforms at this point that we'd want to target in like a production environment, which is like KPAC derived platforms, support extensions, and it's not clear on what like time horizon they would be capable of implementing that. So for extensions, it's like, yes, we could do this, but like we might be talking like 6 to 9 months out into the future before we could have this functionality.
Right, thank you, Ryan. Yeah, there's already a discussion in there. Wondering if there's any comment, anyone here about this proposal. If not, feel free to keep the discussion going in the PR. Cool, thank you. Next up, Squash Stacks RFC.
Yeah, this is another RFC for me. I think we've talked about this on a number of occasions in the past. This is an idea that came out of conversations related to the layer limit that users can hit from time to time, especially if they're building on something like the full builder that has lots and lots of build packs in it. The main issue is that containerd, the way it invokes some command deep inside of its internal implementation is to have some number of layers that are passed as arguments to a command, and the shell itself, or whatever it's execing, I think it's some system call, has a limit on the number of arguments that can be passed to it, which is around 127-ish individual arguments. So the stacks themselves take up, depending upon how the stack's implemented, take up like, 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 layers. The idea here is to build the stack just how we do, but right before we export it, take all those layers and squash them into a single layer. So you would get 2 images, each with just 1 layer, this kind of like monolithic stack image that comes out the other side. The advantage here again is like you've improved, headroom for the builders and for anyone building on top of those full builders that might be running into issues where they're hitting the layer limit. The downside, I guess, would be when you swap out a stack, you're replacing more bits, right? All those packages and stuff that maybe haven't changed on top of the base image. So yeah, that's generally the concept. Just squash the stacks, maybe give us some more space. There's some other thoughts around squashing layers and builders that we might want to take up in the future, but I figured this was a reasonable first step.
Awesome, thank you, Ryan. Any comment here on this proposal? Oh. And an addendum for the dependency mapping RFC.
Yeah, this is just a small edit that I made to the dependency mapping RFC that we put out a while ago when we introduced a new checksum field to our build pack tomls. It broke service bindings that are dependency mappings that people can provide via service bindings, because any dependencies that use that new checksum field, you're required to pass in like the SHA-256 of a dependency rather than a checksum, so it wasn't working well. So this is just a small edit based off of an issue that somebody put in. We already fixed it in Packet, so this now works with checksums, and the RFC has just been updated to note that we can now support the checksum field as well as a SHA-256. We also just added a note that we have moved away from the legacy C and B dependency mapping or service binding spec in favor of just the Kubernetes bindings specification. But I think that's been a thing for a while. We just hadn't written it down anywhere. But I think this also already has 2 steering committee approvals. So I think we're good to probably merge this in.
Yeah, we're just waiting for it to be read into the record at this meeting. I feel like all RFCs should have a point in time where they're actually brought up for discussion in this meeting. But yeah, I think after this, we can go ahead and merge that.
Awesome. Thank you all. Anything else in regards to RFCs? Cool. So next up, any upstream update question? I'm not aware of anything from last week, but okay.
I don't know if this got
Okay.
discussed last week because I wasn't here and I haven't had time to watch the meeting, but there is a new version of the lifecycle that supports stack extension stuff. I don't know if anyone's had time to play around with this and see what the current state of things are. But yeah, might help inform some of the discussion related to the Kerberos Buildpack, just a better understanding of what extensions look like, in addition to getting some insight into how we might model future stack definitions using extensions rather than what we have with the, a tiny base and full stack being just consecutively larger images. Sounds like no one's tried that out yet. At some point, I will probably get some time to do that. But yeah.
I have a quick question. So on the RFC related to Kerberos, you had mentioned that we might be waiting for a while for extension support. What other things upstream besides the lifecycle need to change to get support for that? I'm kind of confused about how I would test this out without having the rest of the pieces.
So I think that Pack has some minor support for it, but I don't think that KPack has any support for it right now. Basically, it's when they implemented it, the lifecycle has a platform definition or platform API, which is a contract between a platform like Pack or KPack and the lifecycle itself. And I think the Pack one has been bumped forward, although I really have to look and see what the state of that looks like. Whereas the KPack one, I don't think any work has been done to move the platform API forward. Outside of that, the lifecycle itself is just an executable. So you can always just create files on a file system or inside of a Docker image, drop the lifecycle into it and invoke the lifecycle against files. That's also a possible way to interact and test out the lifecycle.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. I didn't fully understand the thing about just KPack before, but that makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, next up in project updates, it's that time of the month again where we announce the contributor of the month. Remember that this is an initiative to show our appreciation for individuals providing their time and effort in many different ways to keep improving Paketo as a project. So we have a set of candidates and the maintainers team made a round of votes. And for this time, I'm really glad to confirm that it's Philip still our contributor of the month. And I'm really glad that you are here. This wasn't planned. I hope this is a surprise for you.
Yes, actually it is.
Awesome.
Coincidence that I joined, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, thank you for all your contributions and yeah, especially the dashboard. That was uh, really interesting to see, and the way you took the lead to make it happen. So thank you for all you and your team are doing for Paketo. You want to
Thanks.
say something?
Yeah, I'm just glad to be like part of a working community. I've contributed to other open source projects before where it was a lot less smooth. So just it's fun to contribute to this project. So looking forward to do further contributions, and yeah, I'm honored. Thank you. And it's really
Sure.
coincidence. No one did inform me beforehand about this.
Yeah,
I
awesome.
didn't know.
So no, that's awesome. And yeah, anything we may do to help you better, just let us know. And yeah, I will send you details for you to order swag um, as a contributor of the month. So congratulations and thank you. Cool. Okay, next up. Yeah, well, the Oss Health Assessment is something we do every 6 months on average to again measure the health and on different metrics, the health of this community. In general, in open source, we try to not focus this on success because it's a very limited word. We focus on health. And we had a first assessment in May, I believe. The plan was to run a new one 6 months after to see how we were doing. And here I will be presenting the results, and I will add the link for the actual slides, which are public. All right, so we'll try to go over as quick as possible. We measure six domains. Um, it's not the most accurate or mature framework, I have to say, and I have discussed this several times. But it's a first step to try to have a baseline of health and yeah, measure the kind of the performance of engagement for this community. It has to do with maturity, growth, diversity of community, etc. So in summary, what's working well? I think communication channels, different communication channels available. Um, the the fact that we are getting more and more organizations contributing to the project, organizations besides VMware, that's good. It's not perfect. None of this is done. That's the whole message. None of this is done. Uh, Everything is subject to be improved, but it certainly it's showing a positive trend. The external contributions and the recognitions to contributors that again, it probably could be better, but it's been improving. There are some aspects that could be improved by a lot. Content creation, collaborative content creation. I mean, we had a huge effort from the maintainers team to create content, attend KubeCon, present sessions, etc. I would like to see this happening in collaboration with the community so we can really scale and increase the reach. On, yeah, taking the word about Paketo Buildpacks really far away. Again, release note completeness is an ongoing discussion, but it's in general something that we could do some effort to improve. And in general, diversity. I mean, that's a big word. Um, And certainly the framework we're using right now, it's not is exactly strong on the diversity front, but there are some things that we will be trying to improve on this. Okay, so in terms of project maturity, here are some actions. You know, there are a lot of metrics, and the link is there. But here's just some outstanding items and noteworthy actions that we could take to improve in terms of the metrics on project maturity. We already discussed this, the need to have messaging around how Paketo relates to cloud native build packs. There's a draft blog post there. I will put some lines on it, but I will ask you all to uh, please contribute to it. I'm sure you all have way more context than myself. And it could be a good first exercise on writing something along with the community. There's also all of the actions that you will see here will become issues or are already issues in the community repo, so we can all discuss and keep track of it. The resources section to the website, the goal is to curate and maintain a central collection of all the content that exists out there about Paketo build packs. There is content out there. There are blog posts. So I stumbled on a blog post a couple of weeks ago that I didn't know it existed. Someone created that and how to use Paketo build packs. And the goal is to maintain a central place where all these resources are available. The style guide for docs, it's something that we should revisit, probably take some already existing style guides and adapt them to our needs, but the discussion is right there. And we've been adding adopter organizations to the list, taking into account the trend so far. It's safe to put a goal on adding 2 adopters per month. That's totally reasonable. So I will put more emphasis on this because we learn a lot from adopters. And yeah, in terms of content, the survey that we ran recently showed the need for and some other research that I found on how developers tend to learn. First thing is recorded tutorials, video tutorials, or code walkthroughs. So that's something that we will be working on this, and probably going to meetups and kind of replicate content. It's the reality is what most people do. Take an already existing content presentation session and adapt it to a specific meetup or community and keep going. So yeah, that's part of the action here on content. Any questions so far? No. All right. Yeah. Another goal was the OpenSF best practices badge that we already achieved. Thank you all, team, for making it happen. That's for passing grade. That's the baseline, and that's it. Next level will be aiming for silver. Let me show you briefly what silver level requires. And if we see here our profile, we have 100% of the requirements passing. But if I take a look at silver, we're far away. There are some things that are quite evident, obvious, but there are some aspects on security, quality, and etc. that probably the project already has. We could visit this, we could review this to see how far the project will be in terms of reaching silver level. But the first question will be, do we want to work towards this? I mean, doesn't have any practical direct benefit or implication, but the resulting quality and in general the metrics here for the project will be interesting to achieve for a higher level. So yeah, another discussion that we could have. Cool. All right. Regular release cadence was another metric, but yeah, I believe the consensus so far is that it doesn't apply. Because the nature of the artifacts, the project release, having a regular release cadence alongside all the build packs is just not feasible. Map quality, we're doing fine. It's visible, is regularly updated. So why we are yellow? Because there are some things we need to work on, especially on the content side. The commentation, it's never done. It's never done. According to the survey, the overall consensus, let's say, is that the documentations are do a really good job, but probably more indication on how to troubleshoot common problems will be useful. I don't know if Philip, you would like to comment something around this.
Not right now. No, I have no.
I thought you were going to talk. No problem.
No.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No problem.
Got it. So yeah, growth of community. We recently completed a small change to the governance doc, updating role definitions, basically removing the member role that was between everyone and contributor was a member role, not clearly defined. So it was removed and everyone finally has a name. It's community participant. And it finally has a responsibility to follow the Cloud Foundry Foundation Code of Conduct. Everything else is the same. So the goal is to have a more straightforward path to maintainership. The remaining issue is to see how a steering committee membership could be handled in terms of how to elect candidates from different organizations. It's on the scope for an upcoming discussion, and we will need to visit this. Continually onboarding new contributors is one of the metrics on the growth of community domain. And the good thing is that according to insights from Linux Foundation, we've been doing, or the project has been doing a really good job on onboarding new contributors. These are new contributors from every month, especially unaffiliated contributors. What it means, unaffiliated, basically using individual accounts, individual GitHub accounts. But it shows a constant base of new contributors every month, which is fine. And so far, the churn, the contributor churn is pretty low. So according to the data, every time someone starts contributing, keeps contributing, at least for the past 6 months. That's good. And the impact, it's interesting because this is the impact measured in terms of commits by new contributors since 6 months ago till now. And compared to the total number of commits, the contributions by new contributors are pretty relevant for the project. So again, thank you all for making it happen. It's a huge impact. I mean, 12,000% growth on the impact measured in terms of commits. I mean, there's no other straightforward way to measure this because I'm aware that not all the contributions are commits, but only measuring by commits, the impact is huge. All right, so distribution of work, even right now, it's mainly maintainer driven. If we see, for example, again, measuring in terms of commits, the amount of external contributor PRs versus the total number of PRs and commits is about 14%. 14% of the code work right now is being done by external contributors, so 86% by maintainers. It's not exactly something that is negative. It's just the nature probably of the project, of how it's organized. But it could grow. I mean, there's no clear goals on these percentages, but I will discuss briefly about this later on. Decisions. This is great that the roadmap was discussed with the community, and but with the implementation, the priorities from the implementation are still pretty much centralized. Again, this is not negative. There are some metrics that result from the, or some patterns that result from the nature of the project. But the good thing is that the team is doing every effort to make the roadmap open, transparent, which is great. And it's not common these days. All right, communication channels, some metrics on Slack, and it's good that we have the kind of Slack membership that allows us to have metrics, analytics, without having to use external software. So we've had from the past 6 months, 21% growth in number of members. And there's this interesting metric that is called daily active users over monthly active users. We are sitting on 17%. Active refers to users who sees a message or reacts or posts something. And the goal is 30%, but the consensus from, again, research from many communities, many successful communities out there, or many healthy communities out there, is 20%. The reality is that most communities don't go beyond 20%. So we are closer to the ideal. But again, the goal is to try to increase the level of engagement on Slack to 30%. And on the mailing list front, we've been duplicating the number of members since the mailing list was rebooted, because it already existed. We just rebooted it. Any question, any comments so far? Nope. Cool. In diversity of community, I mean, the number of contributors is awesome. I mean, in the face of everything that's happening in the world right now, we tend to see negative trends on contributors. That's true even for huge projects like Kubernetes. These graphics tend to decrease a number of contributions. But here we are seeing a spike, a positive trend on growth on the number of contributors. That is total contributors, regardless of affiliation. Especially since July, there's been a higher rate of growth. And yeah, that's interesting. And as I said, it goes along with a pretty low churn, almost zero churn, which is pretty interesting. All right, in terms of organizations, well, this is the reason this is yellow, not green, because a big amount of the contributions come from VMware. And unknown typically is individual personal GitHub accounts that could not be tied to any org company. But after that, it's SAP. So that's interesting. And according to LF Insights, the most active non-VMware contributor is SAP. So in the past 6 months. So thank you again, IBM. Thank you all, Bloomberg, Systematic, Doximity, and Individual, right? So as I say, this is not done. And again, even when we have a positive trend on mostly all the metrics, it's not done because we need to work in increasing diversity of organizations contributing. Non-code contributions, of course, they work from the team itself and some external contributions in terms of content, which is great. And probably you will need to add a plan to this to make it more consistent and to distribute the work of the community outreach and leveraging the community. Again, recognition of contributors. The goal of this initiative is to make it consistent. I'm aware that it's not a program, it's more an idea, and it could be way better, way more sophisticated, the contributor of the month, but it's a first attempt to show our appreciation, and probably in the future we will be evolving this into something you know, with a broader reach or more inclusive, etc. But it's a first step to make it at least more consistent. And yeah, release note completeness, there's a discussion ongoing for this discussion. Okay, and finally, user community engagement, user training material, probably, again, according to the survey, we're missing tutorials and how-tos kind of content. We have a pretty good getting started guide, but some other forms of content and for the more common questions will be really useful. We'll be working on this. And yeah, one of the metrics says there should be an obvious process for bug reports and feature requests, where obvious is a big word, but I'm not sure if it's obvious. But from the first health assessment to today, we have a much better template for new issues that include feature requests, bug reports, and other kind of requests. Right. Okay. A bit of an action plan. Again, all of these will become issues, or some of them are already issues, so we can all have visibility. Increase the number of help wanted or good first issue labels. It's also another avenue to get contributions. The resources page, content plan including community members, as I said, and define the process criteria tools to eventually enable steering committee membership. And some explorations that I will be completing. So for example, how to automate these health assessments so we can find early if there is a metric that is not performing well. Work upstream, and when I refer upstream, I refer to, for example, the Chaos project, double S. They maintain a really good set of metrics for open source projects, including diversity goals, metrics, something that we could define that could be attainable and relevant to this community. In terms of diversity, explore a mentorship program. I mean, one of the reasons I see more and more contributions, external contributions, is the willingness from the maintainers team to help to mentor new contributors. That's awesome. So my next step will be how to make it more consistent, how to turn into a program or an initiative or a process to get mentorship. And also I'll be exploring some tools to gain more insights on our users, our community, what they need, and what we could do to serve them better. That's why I call this growth with data. So a final word, thank you. I mean, the main reason this is working so far in some of the metrics is the commitment from the awesome team of maintainers, your willingness to provide quick responses to questions, to go above and beyond your duties. Thank you to every community member for your time, for every suggestion, issue, review, comment, PR, meeting attendance, etc. Thank you all. All right. Any question? Any comment? Cool. So yeah, I'll put in the notes in the newsletter link to these slides. That intern has links for everything. Cool. All right, next up, Paketo Buildpack for .NET Core. Include support for .NET 7.
Yep, just shouting this out. .NET 7 came out yesterday, and so did the Paketo Buildpack for .NET Core that supports it. It's version 25. I'm going to link to it now. If you use .NET 7 or want to be, definitely try it out and let us know if there's anything that's not working the way you expect.
Awesome. Thank you, Frankie. All right. Seems like that's it in terms of project updates. So we'll move to the questions discussion. So first one, I believe from Philip, how to become an org member?
Yeah, so I think this one basically answered itself in the in the presentation, right? So the member is no longer a thing, so that has been squashed with the everyone role, right? And the step is then to contribute directly, right? I also just saw there's a commit that updated this yeah, this markdown here. Yeah, that's exactly this one. Just showing.
Yeah, the goal was to remove intermediate steps like the member role and move from community participant to contributor, where the process is described here. It can be self-nominated or nominated by contributors and must be elected by a supermajority of that project's maintainers. I believe in your case will be tooling, Stacks, and Node. Probably we need to collect a complete list of all the teams, all the repos that you've been contributing to in order to make nomination and complete voting. Right. So yes. I don't know if there is any other comment from anyone here in the call.
I guess for the contributor, then the process is quite clear. So now that this intermediate role is gone, yeah, I know what to do. These steps.
Yeah, there are a bunch of internal sub teams that are maintained for like controlling access and specifying code ownership for like all of the repos and all of the maintainership teams. Those things have attached to them like a forum for discussion, and that's where like project or like team contributor and maintainership votes are held. I don't think you can see that unless you're like a technical member of the GitHub organization.
Yes.
which
So-
is fine. The path for like contributorship, if you want to like self-nominate yourself, I would suggest you like just reach out to like me or another steering committee member or the maintainers of the project and like put your name forward to say I'd like to like put, nominate myself to be a contributor, at which point that person can like proxy the vote into that forum, and then the vote can be held and we can like tell you of the outcome. I think that's like the easiest way to get this done. Just ping people on Slack. But then once you're inside, then you can like see that happening. And, if you're a maintainer, you can participate in the voting as well.
Got it. All right. Does that answer your question, Philip?
Yes, perfect. So,
Awesome. And yeah, thank you again for your interest and engaging even more with the project. Awesome. Great. Okay, anything else? Any question, update, discussion? Anyone here? Nope. Yeah, I will add the link there. And beyond that, thank you all for attending. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.